honor the fact that you've taken the time to invest in yourself and that you're here because you know the possibility of a different way, of an alternative way of living your life. So I'm just going to ask that you pause for just a moment. We would love to take a few seconds to ground ourselves also. So this is a selfish ask, but also for you all. To honor yourself, I'm going to put my hand on my heart and I invite you to do the same and just do some nice, easy, deep breathing. Breathing in and feeling the stomach extend, blowing like a balloon, expanding and letting go of that breath. Another deep breath in. Stomach expanding as you breathe in, as you inhale. And a gentle release out. One last deep breath in. That was lovely. Yay, that was amazing.
Thank you, sis.
You are welcome. So again, officially welcome. Thank you for spending time with us on this Sunday. We're going to talk about mindfulness. We're going to talk about what mindfulness is and what mindfulness is not. We're going to talk a little bit also about the differences and nuances between mindfulness and meditation. That's a question that we get very often, so we'll make that clear. And then we're going to arm you all with some tools, some things that you can use in your life if you want to implement a mindfulness practice. We'll do some working through of what those tools look like and actually support you with creating some things that we know are going to be game changers for you. So thank you for being here. Where are we going to start? We're going to just delve right in.
Yeah, I think it would be helpful to share a little bit about your story, how you came to mindfulness. I'll share a little bit about mine, and then we'll dive in a little bit to the why of mindfulness, the what defined mindfulness for you, and then really our intention is for you to walk away today with a brain-based action plan that you can take with you into 2022. So you can start the year with a daily mindfulness practice. So that is the intention that we're holding for the time that we have.
Yeah, I think that's exciting. I mean, the potential of what that could mean for people. So a little bit about my story. 5 years ago, I found myself in a very difficult place in my life. Life just felt very overwhelming, very difficult. It was just always very hard for me. My relationship was not going very well. I was in a very unhappy, unhealthy relationship. And finding myself in this chronic stress environment. And what I was finding was it was leaving me very little capacity for patience. I was always tired, exasperated, deflated, didn't have much hope. And it was affecting my relationships, particularly my relationship with my then 2 or 3-year-old. So this was about 5 years ago. A lot of very challenging life interruptions were happening in what seemed like the same time, right? So I'm already struggling in this very difficult relationship. My dad passes away, or dad, unexpectedly, right? We spoke with him the night before. The next morning, he was gone. And then 6 months later, our mom is diagnosed with cancer, with stage 4 lung cancer. And so talk about a testing time, right? It was just really hard. And I noticed my sister, who was experiencing parallels, sharing a lot of what I was going through and the struggle of that, but experiencing it with grace, experiencing it with a different capacity, experiencing it with a different level of calm and patience. And I thought to myself, well, I clearly missed the memo. Like, what is it that you know and that you're doing that I don't know and that I'm not doing? And it created a curiosity in me, right? And I started going to my sister for counsel, who was at the time going through some leveling up, some coaching certifications, and really starting and delving into her mindfulness journey also. And so she started introducing mindfulness to me as an alternative way, as a life raft, as a surfboard. And I started to notice a difference, not in my life circumstances, not in my stressors, but in the way I was carrying the load. I really started to see an increase in my connection with my daughter, more patience, less irritability. I wanted to know more. I wanted to learn more. I wanted to do more because I saw the difference it was making in my life. So my journey to finding another way, to finding an alternative, really started with these combination of crises and just wanting to figure out a different way of living. So this reckoning for me really started to have these ripple effects on all components of my life, not just in my personal relationships, in my personal life, but also in my parenting more particularly. And so when you asked me the other day, what is the biggest significance or the biggest impact that mindfulness has made in my life, I paused and I thought, and I said, you know what? It's allowed me to enjoy parenting again. Because in that moment of chronic stress, when I was really just trying to breathe and survive, I wasn't enjoying parenting. Being a mom is already very challenging, being a single mom even more so. And I just couldn't deal, So that's my story. That's my journey to mindfulness. I'm going to turn it to you, sis. What's sort of your path?
So my journey started several years ago. You can see me here, the young version of me. But I was an executive at one of the largest consulting firms in the world, and I was on a path to partner. I was the youngest executive on my account team and had been really set up for what was possible in terms of making a career there. And I was really kicking ass, but working for an organization whose slogan is high performance delivered. It required a certain level of excellence.
Yeah.
And I'm already coming into this environment as an overachieving perfectionist. So plug an overachieving perfectionist into an environment that is demanding the highest level of performance. It's a recipe for disaster.
Perfect storm.
The perfect storm for disaster. And so I was like Rain, in search of something else. And I'm sure like many of you showing up today, you are in search of something else. Like it cannot just be this hard. Mm-hmm. And so I was introduced to meditation. At first, the perfectionist in me was like, okay, I've been sitting here for 2 minutes and I'm not experiencing any bliss. Like, where is the Zen? Mm-hmm. And I turned away from meditation and then found mindfulness meditation specifically, which allowed me to really just tune into the experience. And I had this really profound benefit in learning to be in this environment, to be the overachieving perfectionist, but to experience that experience in a different way.
Yeah.
And I literally felt like I wanted to stand on the mountaintop and scream to the world.
You
like,
said that. You actually
there
said
is
that.
An alternative, everybody.
Yeah, there's a different way.
It doesn't have to be this hard. And so I went and got my certification. I flew all the way to the UK to get certified by a group called the Potential Project. And then we started to take mindfulness to Accenture and scale the program globally. So this is a picture of me guiding my first meditation practice with this very small group. And then I was on a mission. I was like on a personal mission to literally spread these gifts across the world. And so I took it back to small conference rooms. Anyone want to learn more about this? Join me this evening at 6 p.m. But then the room started to get bigger. We had a day of 2,000 people who showed up for a service day. And this is a picture of one side of the room with their eyes closed, practicing meditation.
Amazing.
And the rooms continued to get bigger and bigger and bigger until we started to take this work to our clients. Eventually, I left the organization, started Transcend Global, and started taking this work to our clients like Google, Enterprise, Cisco, HP, Blue Cross Blue Shield, McKinsey even. And one of the things that we learned that I observed in taking mindfulness into these organizations, everyone was in search of an answer to the question, how do I manage?
And before we dive into that, I just want to stop and celebrate the awesomeness of
you.
That. I mean,
yeah, it feels so long ago.
Badass, right? But when I say she's a badass, you know why. So just want to celebrate that. That's pretty cool.
So globally, right, I just want to take a minute to, again, delve into the why and normalize characteristically what we are experiencing as a global society. So just note to self, you are not in this alone.
Yeah.
As a global society, we are living in a VUCA world, okay? And let me define what VUCA means. VUCA is an acronym that economists use to characterize the tenets or the elements of war in Afghanistan.
Warlike conditions.
So what we're basically saying is that we in this modern society are living in warlike conditions, or at least our brain processes these characteristics in the same way. So some of you might have heard this before if you're familiar with our work, but for those of you who are new to this concept, VUCA essentially stands for volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. And so volatility is this pace of change that is the fastest it has ever been, and yet the slowest it will ever be. Amen?
So we got to buckle up, folks.
Uncertainty is feeling like you're forced. For those of you who lead in organizations and are having to make decisions, Jamel said, I'm just trying to get to year end, right? And getting to year end is going to mean having to make some decisions, but you're feeling like you're doing that without not really having all the information or even all the resources that you need.
Yeah.
It's the uncertainty of, okay, we have a new variant of Corona. Well, what will that mean for the next year? Will I be able to go to California for my 1 week retreat like I have planned? Well, I don't know. It depends on what happens with the variant.
For
what
kids,
does that mean?
For school, for travel, for life in general, the uncertainty. Yeah. And we know that uncertainty is the basis of anxiety. The uncertainty and the fear of the not knowing really is what creates anxiety in our bodies. So if you're feeling this general sense of anxiety and overwhelm and uncertainty, it is indicative of the time that we are living in, right? And I think that's important to name.
So coupled with this is complexity, right? We're faced with constantly having to juggle multiple things and make decisions at a pace that is frankly just overwhelming our thinking processes. One of the things I hear from clients often is, I feel like I don't have time to think. Like I have all these problems I need to solve, but I don't even know where to start. I don't even know how to think about the decisions that I have to make, right? Yeah. And then this ambiguity of constantly being faced with unfamiliar circumstances that are forcing us outside of our comfort zone. So we are living in this VUCA world, right? And what that means from a brain science perspective is that we are now operating in a chronic state of stress. And when our brain registers stress, we fall into threat, right? And threat can be either physical threat, like to our health that COVID is introducing, but it can also be social factors, right, as well. And we talk about the SCARF model and how those are domains that we care about, but we care really about relatedness, about having a sense of autonomy, about having certainty, having a sense of freedom. Yeah. So for those of us who are in lockdown, that is a threat that our brain is processing. And when that happens, we fall into fear.
Yeah. Can I interject? It's interesting because when the brain registers a threat, physical or social, so if you're standing in front of a bear, that is a physical threat, right? To your person, to your life, that's a physical threat that's registered. The brain registers physical and social threat in the same way. So that lack of freedom, that lack of the knowing or knowing for sure, the uncertainty, the brain registers it in the same way as you standing in front of a car.
Very important.
Right? Point. So this heaviness that so many of us are carrying is real. And again, I just wanted to clarify that. Yeah.
And when we are experiencing fear, what we start to notice is a level of reactivity in the system, right?
So and that can be
irritability, unproductive ways of being, thinking, or feeling in unproductive ways. So a client that I met with on Friday, she's like, Sky, I feel like I'm in this state of doom and gloom. Like I'm not seeing where it's possible to get through this. Life just feels so complex right now. Right. And it's this dreadful state of, will this get better? And how am I going to manage which is what I'm sure many of you are feeling today. So it creates what feels like this downward spiral into like the dark doom,
the abyss,
right? And so what we want to offer today, we invited you to explore with us how mindfulness can serve as an alternative to this doom and gloom, how mindfulness can serve as an alternative to the stress, to the chaos, so that you can experience the experience in a different way. And that's what I shared with my clients of, okay, so the circumstances might not be changing. This is your reality.
Yeah.
But how are you going to experience this reality in a different way? And so in some ways, we're inviting you to become the eye of the storm, that amidst the noise and the craziness and the panic and the turmoil, that you can have a core of inner peace and calm and joy and ease amidst the storm that you are living in.
And that's what we were experiencing in the midst of our pain as Mommy was preparing, right, for her transition, experiencing with her the end of her life's chapter.
Yeah.
And in retrospect, even in those moments, we could experience joy despite the pain, that we could experience calm despite the chaos. You know, people would come, and not very many, because we were going through so much emotionally and otherwise, right, in this physical space. And so the people who are closest to us would come here and they would get a glimpse into what life was like for us. And it would often blow their minds. They would really have this moment. I would observe it very often, and they would even have a conversation with us about it. How are you girls doing this? Like, this is a lot. This is heavy. This is life, right? Unfolding in a way that you could never have expected, but yet you're building a business, but still you're parenting a beautiful daughter who is flourishing. Like, how are you doing this? And I think that keeps me very humble, because it reminds me of the why for us, the why we do this work, the why we're so excited to be here with you all and share this. And the fact that, you know, we feel prepared, we feel equipped, we feel resourced. And it's not that we don't have our moments of stress and overwhelm. We definitely do, but we remind ourselves that we have the tools, that we have everything that we need. So for me, that's why I'm excited. And I know that I just disrupted your thought and just completely took over what you were saying, but
on track.
But I wanted to share that.
So what we want to offer as the alternative, and you've heard us talk about this relaxed hustle, this is basically our playbook. This is how we have, and not only have we studied mindfulness, Rain also has her certification in mindfulness. We've obviously been doing this work a lot, but what we've done is we've taken what we've learned from our studies, but also from our lived experience. When people ask us these questions, we get together, we sit and we reflect on, okay, so how actually have we been doing this?
Yeah.
And what we've put together is what we call our playbook to the relaxed hustle. So it starts with making sure that you're covering the basics, that you're arming yourself with the 5 core powers of mindfulness, that you're actively cultivating the skills. And we're going to talk through what these skills are.
This is our
empowered program. And mind you, some of you have been through a version of this program. It's like an 8-week version at this point. So there's a lot of content that we're trying to condense into this. But essentially, it's the power of the breath, right? It's learning how to tap into the deeper levels of relaxation by learning to activate the power of that breath to find different mind states, releasing tension in the body, and get yourself to a state of calm and stillness. So you're activating that parasympathetic nervous system to support you in that way. It's the power of awareness, where you can actually build your self-awareness so that you can see life more clearly. It's the kind of awareness that allows you the capacity for choice and change.
That's it.
Right?
That's it. The awareness is huge. And I talk a lot about the awareness being the first step. The first step to change really is the knowing, right?
Yeah.
The awareness of what are my triggers, the awareness of what am I struggling with, the awareness of what is the source of my stress. That clarity is the beginning of the change.
And what's the impact? What's the impact on me? What's the impact on those around me, the people that I love, the people that I work with, right? So it's having that awareness and even understanding, where does this come from? What's the driving force? So my awareness of being an overachieving perfectionist, how does that manifest in my day-to-day life? What are the behaviors that drives? And when you have that awareness, it gives you agency to then make changes in a meaningful way.
Absolutely.
So one of the other powers that we talk about is mastering the mind, right? Gaining command of your attention so that you can weed out habitual thoughts and habitual behaviors that are not helpful and focus on the powerful thoughts, right? So it's combating the negativity bias and understanding that our brains are wired for negativity. We can start to see how that negativity bias is manifesting and then choose to course correct, right?
I want to give a quick example of how I implement a mastering the mind exercise with Noah. So Noah is an intuitive. She lives very much in her mind. She is an overactive thinker, an empath also. So always processing different feelings and emotions separate from her own, right? And so, when she's getting ready for bed, she struggles with calming the mind and being able to get to a state where she can fall asleep, right? We know that we process anywhere from 60 to 90,000 thoughts a day. Most of them we process at night. When we don't have our distractions, when we're not busy, when we are still and calm is when the thoughts often flood. So this can be challenging for someone who is trying to fall asleep. And this happens in adults and in children. And so we do an exercise where we bring attention to her thoughts. We call it the weed and the flower thought exercise, where she's able to train her mind to choose and to kick aside the weed thoughts and to focus on the flower thoughts. So that gives her that good feeling, that warm, fun, fuzzy, sunny feeling, and helps her to calm her mind. And we also use breathing exercises coupled with this weed flower exercise. So really tangible tools that we can use for grownups and for kids. I just thought about that example and wanted to share. Yeah.
And I've heard Noah like, weed to flowers.
Yeah. And listen, mastering the mind is the number one skill to achieving the best version of your life, right? What is that quote that you often say? I've been through some stuff. And
I always forget the philosopher that says it, but I want to say it's Albert Einstein. I don't remember, but he's like, I've been through some crazy things in my life. And some of them actually happened. Yeah. But there's a large majority of the things that we catastrophize.
Yeah.
Right. We have this negativity bias that then catastrophizes our experiences, and it makes the hardship even worse.
It's the mental warfare.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's the mental warfare that we are trying to overcome. And Carrie-Ann is saying, thank you so much, Rain, for sharing this.
Of course.
This is probably why I struggle to sleep as well. Very interesting. Sure. So thank you for that nugget.
For sure.
All right. So I'm very conscious of time. One of the other powers that we focus on in the program, and this is a core skill of mindfulness, probably one of the favorite modules that we cover in the program,
especially for parents,
is mastering our emotions, because we know that we are living through a difficult time, and with hard times comes difficult emotions. So it's having the ability to direct your emotional states, and we cover very practical skills. What I want to point out is that this is a program of actually cultivating very specific skills.
Yeah.
So we break down these concepts into very practical ways that you can actually apply these skills to your life. So we talk about cultivating emotional literacy, having a vocabulary to name your emotions, because what you name, you can tame, right? And then rewiring the unhelpful emotional patterns so that you can actually make your emotions work for you, right? Yeah. It's having a moment of stress and overwhelm and resentment for being a caregiver, and just walking into my mom's room and asking myself, how can I be kind? How can I find the joy? How can I be with her from a place of love? Right. And then redirecting
in that moment with her,
these challenging emotions of overwhelm and stress and resentment into actually finding joy in these precious moments with her. Right. That is an example of what mastering your emotions.
And that is something that you would do every time before you would go in the room. So that is an activity that you would do more often. And as you continued to practice, it became more of your default.
It became more of my default.
Right?
I mean, the door was my threshold.
Yeah.
So like when I walk into that door, I activate that intention of joy and kindness and love. That was my mantra, right?
And what a gift that was in being able to really experience the last moments of her life, not from a place of resentment and anger and regret, but from a place of true joy. I mean, talk about game changer.
I mean, that's what allowed me to experience the experience in a different way. The circumstances were the same.
It is, and the acceptance.
But how I experienced it was different, right?
Absolutely.
Denise says, I'm living this right now. And Jamel says, this is great, great motivation.
You're so welcome.
You're so well. And we'll get into like action planning when we get through this.
Yeah, so because we want to leave you with that for sure.
The last power that we focus on is wise compassion. I set an intention in 2020 that I wanted to live life from the heart, to tap into the vastness of the heart space. The mind is a very limiting place, right? And with the negativity bias, it can feel very constricted, right? This client of mine feeling the dread and the hopelessness of her circumstances. When we can sink into our heart space and activate wise compassion, right? It's the moments when you feel like your team is asking of you to be more empathetic, to be more compassionate, but it's actually supporting you in improving the quality of relationships because you're learning to love yourself and others with more openness, right? And it therefore increases your resilience. Karen says, thanks for bringing that up. You know, I'm doing that right now.
Yes,
absolutely.
Yes. Living from the heart and not from the mind.
That's it. That's it.
Yeah, because we're trained to live up here, to process up here, to make decisions from
up
here.
That's right.
But when we can connect to our core, to our heart, to our source, we live very differently. Yeah.
So these are the core, 5 core fundamental foundational skills that you're actively training. It's like building the muscle within you to have these skills, right? So you move through your life with more skillfulness. And from this place of skillfulness, you're able to cultivate a kind of personal mastery, which is a core set of qualities that turbocharge every single area of your life. One of my favorite qualities is the quality of capacity. It's increasing your window of tolerance. It's the analogy that I like to give is if you take a spoon of salt and you pour that spoon of salt into a cup, the potency with which you can taste that salt is going to be stronger, right? But take that same teaspoon of salt and pour it into a pool of water or a lake for that matter. The potency of that saltiness is going to be experienced less.
Yeah.
So it's that equanimity that you're able to experience life in a different way. You have more capacity. It's not that the circumstances change. Your job is what it is. Your home life is what it is. And maybe there are some things about that you want to improve, but you can experience the same circumstances, the same saltiness with less potency. And that's what makes a difference.
That's what mindfulness does. It increases your capacity, right? Increases the window of tolerance that you are able to experience. Yeah.
And with that personal mastery, you're able to live, lead, and parent with this relaxed hustle. You can achieve more greatness, higher levels of greatness, right? You can, I have clients who have an opportunity to get a promotion to EVP, Executive Vice President, and worrying, if I can't manage the stress at this level, how am I going to level up to this new opportunity?
Absolutely.
So it's allowing you to make these jumps, whatever leveling up looks like for you in your life, but to be able to experience that with more joy, with more calm and more ease.
I wanted to share. So we were blessed to be featured, Sky and I, in the Jamaica Gleaner a few months ago. And the caption was mindfulness helps women grieve and live a more fruitful or wholesome life. I don't remember the title, but one of the people who were also featured in the article talked about really getting curious about successful people. She decided she was going to study the most successful people in the world and figure out what was their formula. And she shared that one of the common themes that she noticed was that every single one of them, Oprah Winfrey included, and you know, Oprah is like a goddess, right? Had in some capacity a mindfulness and a meditation practice. So it is the secret ingredient. It is the secret weapon, right? Because we're not promoting or suggesting that you live a life less great, right? Or that you stifle or dim your shine. You live your best life. You level up, you achieve the greatness, but you do it with more ease and more calm, that you're able to, again, increase that capacity. So we wanted to talk a little bit about mindfulness and what it is also, because we're taking for granted that you know what it is. And if you ask different people, you get different definitions, right? But we like to think of it as it's a practice of paying attention. What are you paying attention to? Your thoughts, your feelings, your sensations, your triggers, on purpose, with intention, right? So when you decide to take a 10-minute break out of your busy day to spend with your loved one, with your partner, with your daughter, with your son, it's that intention that you bring to be present in that moment and doing it without judgment. So when you're sitting for a 10-minute meditation and you have the intention of being present and tapping into yourself, that whatever comes up, you don't judge, right?
Or
Because
it's walking into mommy's room and paying attention to the fact that I'm feeling resentful, I'm feeling overwhelmed, I'm feeling this doom and gloom, this, I'm having this difficult moment, and I just wish that things were different. So it's paying attention to that reality and not judging it, right? Because the tendency is then to say, I'm a bad daughter. How could I be feeling this way? So
and the spiral starts.
The non-judgment is what allows me to then say, I can honor this, that this is my experience, but it doesn't mean that this is who I am. And so I have agency in that moment to shift,
making a choice
from the place of intentionality, and then step into her room with a smile and with the intention to convey kindness, to show up from a place of love in that moment with her. So that's a very practical example of what that paying attention without judgment
looks like,
can make possible.
Yeah. And, you know, mindfulness often gets misconstrued very often because people don't understand it. Sky and I talk about the simplicity of mindfulness, and it's almost simple to a fault where it becomes complicated. But, you know, a quote that you shared with me that I really love is, in talking about what mindfulness is not, it is, I don't meditate to feel good. I meditate and have a mindfulness practice because I feel bad. Let's unpack that for a moment, because I think it speaks to sort of demystifying, right, mindfulness and meditation. Because for me, mindfulness is not a silver bullet. It's not a magic wand, right? It's a practice. It's a lifestyle. It's skills that you need to develop. We still experience stress. As a parent, as a caregiver, I still have those moments of overwhelm, but my mindfulness practice allows me to shift those moments and experience them in a different way. Should we spend 2 minutes to talk about the nuances between mindfulness and meditation? Let's ask you all, because we really want you all to be able to work on your action plan. So if you want us to talk about the differences between meditation and mindfulness, give us a thumbs up in the chat.
Here's what I'll say. The starter kit, which we sent out to everyone in advance of the session today. So if you registered, you should have gotten your starter kit.
Yes.
And I'm going to just come out of screen share for a minute and provide a link to the starter kit that if you don't have it, you can download it. I think having that, because we basically
talk a little bit about that there.
Kit. Yeah, if you want to just at a high level talk about it, then because we have some thumbs up in the chat.
Yeah, I think, you know, the formal practice of mindfulness is traditionally called meditation. So meditation is a conduit for practicing mindfulness, right? When you are meditating, it's a vehicle to achieving a level of mindfulness. So I think about it in that way. Meditation is the most common way to practice mindfulness. So
I like to say that what you practice on the mat, because remember, meditation is the skill building that you're doing.
That's
so
right.
What you're actively practicing, the way that you're training your brain, is what then becomes available to you in your everyday life moments.
That's right. That's right. So meditation is a contemplative practice, and you have different forms of meditation. You have mindful meditation also. So, I think about meditation similar to praying, for example. Both are contemplative practices, but mindfulness is the umbrella under which meditation would fall. So hopefully that gives you some clarity. And again, the starter kit delves into it a little deeper. So please make sure you check that out. Should we get to the starter kit now then?
Yeah, I think let's pause and see before we jump into the starter kit. So we're going to spend the last few minutes that we have together to work through the actual action plan.
Yes.
But before we jump into that, I just want to invite you all to put any questions in the chat so that we can answer these questions along the way.
Good idea.
Or if you want to come off of mute, if there's a question that's really present for you.
Yeah, let's pause for a few seconds.
Welcome someone else's voice in the room if you want to come off of mute.
Hearing my voice.
I don't mind hearing your voice.
That was not the right answer. You should have said, I love hearing your voice.
It's Mommy. So when we started recording meditations for the Empowered program, Mommy was like, so don't be offended, but I actually prefer the sound of Rain's voices. I find myself. That? Yes, I didn't tell you. She finds herself gravitating more towards Rain's meditations. And I'm like, okay, that's wonderful. Do what works for you. Nothing is more annoying than having someone guide you and you can't stand their
so
voice.
Many of our clients have said that your voice is so calming. And
well, thank you.
Yeah, so I guess
I'm not seeing any questions in the chat, but I will check back.
Okay, cool. So let's jump
in. I'm going to screen share the actual starter kit. I put a link to the starter kit in the chat as well. And I just want to walk you through all of the elements. If you don't have a copy of it, that's fine. Grab a sheet of paper and we can work through the different sections together. So what I will say is the hardest part to starting a mindfulness practice is starting.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So we invite you to start by having a plan. And I will say that like any other thing that you're trying to implement in your life, whether it's a healthy diet, whether it's going to the gym, whether it's going to bed early, it's going to be a journey. There's going to be ebbs and flows. And so we've really given some thought to what are the core challenges of starting a mindfulness practice. And we'll talk through things like finding the time. And so we've solved for what we hear as the most common challenges and a recommended approach for how you can mitigate that.
Setting you up for
success. We are coming to get you 2022. Don't even think about it.
Bring it on.
So we start with why, right? This is important because in those moments when you have to make a choice between sitting to do the meditation practice, you want to be reminded of why you're doing this. And so I want you to just take a moment you can close your eyes if you'd like. Think about all of the people in your life, the people who are impacted by you, by your leadership, by your love, who depend on you. And think about your relationship, even with yourself. And what do you envision as the impact that having a mindfulness practice will make on your life? Take a moment to write down what will be possible for my life, for the people in my life, by cultivating this mindfulness practice. And trusting that wisdom that is coming through, go ahead and write that down.
I'm going to drop that question in the chat. So this is the beginnings of your mindfulness implementation plan.
So again, this why is what you go back to when you get off track. It's the reminder of why you've started this journey in the first place. And it's a driving force that will help to keep you motivated. And then think about the what. So what will you do? Are you going to do a guided meditation? We have a bunch of free I'm hearing some background noise. Let me find you and mute you. So what will you actually do? Will you do breathing techniques? There's also walking meditation. Maybe it's prayer for you as well. We're not forcing a certain format or structure on you, but any form of contemplative practice where you can sit in stillness for a few moments. What will you do? So Kamoy is sharing her why, better stress management and avoiding the negative spiral. Beautiful. I want you to also think for Kamoy and for others, for right now, it's managing the stress. It's avoiding the negative spiral. And what will be possible? What is the affirmative? What is the positive affirmation of what will be possible when you're able to manage that stress, when you're able to avoid the negative spiral? So we can use that affirming language to identify the why. What will be made possible when you're able to do those things? And then we move into the what. Now, the other thing to consider is where, right? So where will you do the practice? And a couple ideas. You can do it first thing in the morning when you're in bed, last thing at night before you go to sleep. I have some clients that share that they actually go in their closet or in the bathroom because that's the only place that they can actually have some privacy, that they can lock the bathroom door and say like, I'm in the shower.
Yeah, the shower is a good place.
Or I'm on the toilet.
The shower is a really good place because you have the added sensory of the water and the calming impact of that. I often do my meditation in the shower.
Or it might be in the car, right?
When you're not driving.
When you're not driving, but for example, if you commute to the office in the mornings, it might be the moment that you pull up to your parking space, you sit for 5 minutes and you do the meditation there. Or if you drop the kids to school in the morning, when you come back and you pull into the driveway, or maybe when you come home from work and you pull into the driveway. So it can also be in your car before you step into whatever it is that you have planned for the day. So identify the where. And if you want to get really into this, I mean, creating a meditation space that you go to, right? So maybe you work from home and you're not moving around. Well, you can create a space that has an altar, for example. You can light a candle, you can get a meditation chair, you can get a meditation cushion, and you can create this space that when you step into this space, it's like the soul care lounge. You just feel this sense of calm, this sense of zen when you step into this place. And Denise says, I will have a calmer approach to life and all that it brings.
Amen.
Yes, we affirm.
Amen, amen, amen.
Okay, so now when are you going to practice? And we're going to get really practical. So if you have access to your calendar, if you have a sense of what you have coming up the next couple days, we want to do this in 7-day sprints. So look at the next 7 to 10 days at what you have coming up. And actually look at the time that's going to be feasible for you to do this. Mm-hmm. We're not just setting the intention, we're setting the intention and we're going to do this in a very practical way. Mm-hmm. So maybe your general intention is to do it in the mornings, but on Wednesday morning, you have a meeting that starts at 8 a.m. Then it might not be practical. You might have to do something different. So anticipate what might get in the way.
Excuse me.
And plan around that barrier to making your plan possible, right? So take a moment to do that now and identify where in your week, the next 7 to 10 days, will you actually practice. And the other recommendation that I like to give is to staple your activity to something that you do every single day. So you already have a morning routine, whether you are conscious of it or not. Yeah. There are things that you do every single day, like you have to brush your teeth at some point, right?
Hopefully.
We hope. You're going to eat something at some point. And so go through and think about the activities that you do every single day. On most days, you're going to get out of bed, right? So for some people, it's when I plant my feet on the floor, I'm going to sit and do my practice for a few minutes.
Yeah.
So consider those activities that you do every single day and identify what are you going to staple this activity to.
For me, it's as soon as I'm conscious of the fact that I'm awake. I lay in bed for a few minutes. I do my prayer meditation, and that for me sets the tone for my day. And I feel arms me, to bring that sense of calm, because I was finding through my meditations that I was waking up with an anxiousness, not even aware of the source of the anxiety, but I would feel the physical manifestation of the anxiety in my chest, the racing heart. As soon as I opened my eyes, I would be conscious.
You were aware of that from doing the meditation in the morning. That
brought
your recognition.
Right.
Interesting.
Right. It brought the awareness of the physical feeling. The inquiry allowed me to realize it was this anxiousness, this anxiety, and I was able to identify the source. And so I have that grounding practice before I even walk through the doors to go downstairs. So that's been really helpful for me. Yeah.
So you have your why, you have your what, hopefully you have your where, you have your when. And the last element of this is who will support you, who is going to hold you accountable, whether it's a friend, a spouse, a team member. If you're a parent, maybe you want to grab another parent and say, hey, I'm doing this thing, join me. If you're a leader, you might consider engaging your team. So for the next several days, if you're having next several weeks, if you're having team meetings, maybe you do what we did at the beginning of the session and invite them into a centering practice where we just take 1 minute to ground ourselves, to center ourselves before we actually start meeting. So identify who will support you. And if you want to take that extra step to step into this practice and into your commitment, invite you to even text them and say, hey, I'm asking you to be my accountability partner, and send them a message and ask them to do that.
A friend of mine took a screenshot of a Zoom meeting she was leading the other day, and they all started with
a centering practice.
A 2-minute centering practice. And I said, here's to normalizing this, to being able to center and ground ourselves as a team before we come together and strategize and plan, which, it was really cool. Yeah.
So here's what I want you to do. This is a brain-based action plan. I've adopted this from the Neuro Leadership Institute, and it's a scientifically proven process to help you actually make a change that sticks. So you're going to start with when, insert your trigger. So think about what your current reality looks like, and then think about what your to-be reality will look like with this mindfulness or meditation practice. And so you're going to identify today, when my alarm goes off, for example, I jump out of bed and I run to the bathroom, right? Maybe that's what your current state looks like. But with your mindfulness action plan, what you'd like to do is wake up, plant your feet on the floor, and then do 2 minutes of a mindfulness practice. So what you'll write in here is when, insert the trigger of your alarm going off. What's the thing that's triggering the next behavior? And rather than jumping out of bed and going to the bathroom, instead, I will sit, plant my feet, and do a meditation practice. So that's just an example. I'm not saying that this is what your action plan needs to look like, but that's an example how you can plug the elements of your new habit into this action plan.
And this can be also taken to the next level of writing this where you can visually be reminded. So Post-its really work for me as a visual reminder, and it sort of becomes a mantra. So when I'm trying to form a new habit, this particular step is really, really helpful. When I wake up in the mornings, instead of jumping out of bed, I will lay in bed and do my 2-minute practice. And the more you say it, the more it becomes ingrained in your mind, and it really helps to facilitate this habit change.
So that raises a really good point. When we think about some of the core challenges that we hear, one of the things that we hear is people forgetting to do it.
Yes.
As funny as that might sound, you create this plan and you have the intention, but you don't remember to do it because it's not a part of your normal routine.
Yeah.
And so think now about what is a way that you can be reminded, right? When you create your alarm, can you put on it, do your meditation practice? Or maybe you have a gratitude rock, which I know Elena has. Place the gratitude rock somewhere that you can visually see that. Post it on the mirror in your bathroom. What is something that you can use as a reminder? Maybe it's an object that already sits in your home, that when you see that object, it's a reminder to do the practice. The other thing that we hear, and this is going to be very important because you are all busy. Ingrid says, I'm going to tell Alexa to remind me.
If that works,
if that's
sure.
what works, do that, right?
Awesome.
Or maybe
Good
it's
idea.
the click of going on to a Zoom button. Or for one of our empowered participants, it was logging into her computer in the morning. That act of doing that reminded her, before I jump into email, let me sit here and do my practice. So one of the things that we hear the most as well is that as parent leaders, you don't have the time. It's difficult to find the time. So what I'm going to recommend is that for the next 10 days, you take an incremental approach. Day one, you do 1 minute.
1 minute, folks.
1 minute.
60
you spend
seconds.
far more of that scrolling on Instagram, right?
Or Facebook.
But what you do is you sit in stillness. Don't do a guided meditation. Don't just do 1 minute. Set your alarm for 1 minute. Day two, you go to 2 minutes and you increase the number of minutes every single day. Eventually you'll get, after 10 days, you'll then get to 10 minutes. And I shared this story on live the other day, a leader who was like, are you kidding me? How am I going to find 10 minutes in my day?
No way.
And she later came and said, you guys have longer meditations because I need more time. So that's what you start to experience. Start with 1 minute, increase to 10 minutes. Once you get to 10 minutes, that's the secret weapon. Scientists have confirmed that a minimum of 10 minutes of meditation is where it starts to shift the brain and we can start to actually tap into the benefits of this practice. But I want you to start 1 minute at a time. Now we're at the end of our 1 hour. We're happy to stay on to support you. Please jump into the chat and just affirm, I've got my plan. I'm ready to go. If you have any questions, we'll stick around to support you. The last minute thing that we wanted to share is that if this is something that you want to do in community, what we're going to do for the rest of the year, if you attended our session today, if you're seeing the recording and you'd like to be in community to be supported, if you sign up for the Empowered program, which is a 21-day series of meditations, they're 10 minutes each, we'll invite you into a WhatsApp group that will support you to be on this journey. So if that is something that is of interest for you, then jump in the chat and say, I'm in. Send us your email address. We'll send you the link to the WhatsApp. We'll send you everything that you need to get ready. But we're hoping that if nothing else, you're walking away today with an understanding of what mindfulness is, an idea of how it can actually enrich and change your life, and a specific action plan that you can take with you into 2022.
Carol says she's in.
She's ready. I'm in.
Cool. Having the access to us, but also to a bigger, larger community
and to be part really of a movement, like
really gold.
A group of people who are committed to living 2022 in a different way.
Right? I can't overemphasize how valuable that is, really. And you know, Sky and I are committed to supporting people because we believe so strongly in this alternative approach to living our best life, really. So being able to be in community and having that access, I really encourage you all to take advantage of this. But also, if you have other friends, other parent leaders, other people in your community, this access is really just so amazing. So I want to make sure that you think also to your community and who would benefit, not just from the benefits of mindfulness and the program Empowered particularly, but that community and that access that we're providing through WhatsApp. How long are we doing that for, by the way?
So I don't even know. At least until the end of the year.
I want to support them. I want to create greater access to, and without even really thinking through. So take advantage while it lasts.
And thank you for those who are sending your direct messages. A couple questions. I mean, we're committed to supporting the group until the end of the year, and we'll see, we decide as a group how we want to do this. Kamoy is asking the question, is Empowered just guided meditation? So Empowered is structured around those 5 core elements of mindfulness that we shared. And what we've done is we've created 21 days where you go through each of those powers and you actually do skill building. So it's a program that helps you to build the skill. It's sort of like building blocks, and you set the foundation of breath and awareness, and then you move into mastering the mind, and then you move on to mastering emotions, and then you move on to cultivating compassion. Mm-hmm. But what it also does is it also has journaling prompts so that you can actually benefit from and juice the gifts and the nutrients of the practice by taking the time to reflect and journal on the applicability of that skill that you've built for that day and how that can apply into your life. So the program will give you, I think we have 30 days in its entirety because we have several bonus meditations, but it's 21 days of guided meditations. You have a journaling prompt and then support through this WhatsApp group as you're working on actually building this practice.
So it's meditations plus.
And some of you have responded in direct message. If this is something that you want to do, please make sure that we have your email address as well so that we can send you the registration link. We're, of course, offering a discount code for you investing this time in yourself. And then we'll get you set up in the WhatsApp group.
So send us your email address if you're interested in Empowered, and also in as an extra bonus in having access to this community. And having access to us also.
What questions are still present? What hesitation do you have? What's top of mind as you're walking away from this? Yeah, Nicole is excited. I can see the smile on her face. Lisa is like, yeah.
I'm just excited that people are here, that they have, again, invested time in themselves, and that they believe in the possibility, right, of a new way, of a different way. And that brings me great joy and true excitement.
And don't wait until January to do this. Some of you might be thinking, I'm walking into the busiest period of my life. Here's what I'll say. If you can do it now, then you can do it for the rest of the year.
That's a good point.
If you can carve out the time, we're saying 1 minute on the first day, 2 minutes on the second day. And just by sitting there, right? Feet on the floor, posture alert, eyes closed, 1 minute. Focus on the breath. That's all you have to do. 1 minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes. Eventually you'll get to 10, and this will become your daily habit.
And these are the life skills, right? This is a toolkit, and I believe in you all. I'm excited for the possibility of what this holds for everyone. Thank you so much for being here. This was fun, sis.
Denise says, I'm in. Yeah. Sonia says, count me in. Sam says, I'm in. Lisa is saying, thank you so much for this action plan.
You're welcome.
Print it out, complete your plan. And just let us know how it's going. What are you finding? What are you struggling with? What are you finding that's working? We want to hear how this goes.
Send us a message on our DM, folks. We read those messages. We respond to them. It's the best way to connect with us. Transcend.tribe. Send us a message. Sky's going to drop it in the chat.
Yeah, if you're not following us on Instagram.
Follow us. That's the best way to connect with us.
Another great resource for you as well. So with that,
happy Sunday, y'all.
Happy Sunday.